Hello everyone, meet Dave. Dave's a chimp and we're going to teach Dave about fascism. What's that, Dave? You know that fascism is a political ideology based around unitarian authority and national... Oh, Dave, you're far too clever. Okay everyone, meet Dave too. We're going to teach Dave too what fascism is. It's nothing against the people in the pointy hats. Oh, what's that? You know that the people in the pointy hats aren't really gay and black and that's a joke. Well, you're too clever too. Alright everyone, meet Dave the Third. Dave the Third's a pigeon who has been trained to press a button for good and press a button for bad, depending on what he sees or hears. And just to prove it, Dave the Third, who did you vote for at the election? Awesome. So why are we teaching pigeons to recognise fascism? Well, there is a worry that our MPs can't do it anymore. Thankfully, after the Second World War and the Holocaust, a group of enlightened individuals got together and decided to write the European Convention on Human Rights, which was designed to prevent fascism from coming back to Europe again. But our MPs have decided that they are now sick to the back teeth. So what brought on this sudden nausea? Well, one prisoner had gone to the European Court of Human Rights to argue that the bills that we currently have which prevent him from voting were effectively preventing him from voting, which some people would state is the obvious. So 220, or one-third, of the House of Commons MPs, who are elected by 66% of the people in the UK, are eligible to vote. So 1/6 of the UK's voting population voted to pass a law which is illegal, which means when the Queen signs it, she will have to detain herself at Her Majesty's pleasure, which brings a whole new meaning to commemorative coin. So, to stop one person from partaking in the democratic process, 220 people, or effectively one-third of the UK, depending on which is bigger, it's open to debate, decided to pass a new law which is illegal to prevent one person from voting. The alternative, of course, was just to allow prisoners to vote, and conveniently or unfortunately the UK prison population is approximately 80,000, which is roughly the same as one constituency, so there was a chance that Prison West or Prison East could return an MP. Hopefully that would be for the Prisoner Party, which would stand for Topless Crime Watch, unlimited fags, and no more shit in a bucket. But hang on, the Lib Dems, they'll save us. Hello, Deputy Prime Minister Nick. What's that? You're going to set up a commission, and that's going to stop the nasty Tories. But hang on, the nasty Tories are already talking about what's going to happen anyways. Deputy Prime Minister Nick, aren't you just the silencer on the Tories' shotgun? But don't worry, people such as convicted fraudster Lord Taylor will still be able to sit in the completely undemocratic House of Lords, passing bills, being bribed by lobbyists to put in new things, and people such as convicted perjurer Lord Brown will still be called upon to write poorly researched and barely ineffective educational bills, and people such as Lord Ashcroft, who we're never sure if he was resident or not, will still be possibly legally allowed to fund the Tory party and pass laws and bills too. And as for Mr Murdoch, well, let's hope phone tapping's still legal. Thankfully, though, the European Court of Human Rights allows for countries to define and decide on historical and cultural reasons why certain bits of it shouldn't apply to them or should be treated differently. So, although it was in no one's manifesto, and although no one's actually asking for it, and although there appear to be greater democratic problems than actually allowing our prisoner to vote, David Cameron is now going to take upon it himself to define in law the historical and cultural reasons why the right to partake in the democratic process is different in the UK compared to the other parts of Europe, such as recently communist and largely mafia run Bulgaria. What a statesman-like thing this is. Is Cameron's big society the same vision that JFK had? Although, don't ask what you could do for your country, because in the big society you might end up being a lumberjack in a forest, running a hospital, and possibly even being a member of the army. Oh, sorry, Pidge. Cameron did replace a Scottish usurper. He has had a problem dealing with woods and trees, so he probably is Macbeth, but that would make Sam Cam Lady Macbeth, and there's no sign of a damned spot yet. Although, if she's been polishing things, that might explain how shiny William Hague is. It's possible that William Hague actually is Mikhail Gorbachev, and Hague's been polished and all buffed up. Now, if Hague is actually Mikhail Gorbachev, that means the next Tory leader could be a white-haired drunken buffoon called Boris. Henry II famously rid himself of the pesky Thomas à Becket interfering in these matters, although Henry II did provide the right to trial by jury over the right to trial by combat, so he's slightly more progressive and to the left of David Cameron. Having seen his flagship policy sink once, not twice, Cameron has a lot in common with Henry VIII, although 2/8 being a 16th is not something Cameron knows about. Cameron's strong, muscular liberalism and its famous religious tolerance might manifest itself best as William of Orange, though Cameron would have probably got sponsorship. Although knowing Cameron, he probably would have got the wrong sponsorship. Cameron's already U-turned a few times, so he can't be Margaret Thatcher, although like Thatcher, he could become more popular if he invades a small little island that's proving to be troublesome. And all Thatcher's not for turning, she might soon be for turning off. That would leave a statesman like Void at the top of the Tory party. Thankfully, Thatcher's son knows something about democratic change, and he also knows about getting old Etonians into power alongside the SAS. Cameron could aim to be Churchillian, but is that the Churchillian that believes in gassing Kurds? Because then he could also be Husseinite. And then, is he the type of Churchillian that can't remember if he's a Lib Dem or not? But the problem if Cameron turns out to be a Churchill-like leader is guess which leader was in charge when the European Convention on Human Rights became law? That's right, Churchill. And guess who it was that passed or helped to write the European Convention on Human Rights? A Conservative MP. But not just a Conservative MP. David Five had been the Solicitor General, the Attorney General, the Home Secretary and the Lord High Chancellor. He was also one of the people that was the barrister at the Nuremberg trials. So it's safe to say he knew a fair bit about the law, whereas Cameron's been a TV PR man. But don't worry, the pigeon knows what fascism is now. We'll all be okay.